Toes, everybody. Let's hear it.
I didn't know there were going to be stairs involved.
Yeah, we should have warned you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to see all of you here. Thank you for coming in.
So let's start it off. Now we just got the little history there.
Very good.
You started working with Jerry G. Bishop, and you were just a kid then at that time, right?
It was that long ago, wasn't
Right.
it? Yeah, actually, it was about, I just graduated from high school, was about to go to college, and Jerry was the staff announcer that was on duty. Back then, they had live staff announcers at all the TV stations. And Jerry happened to be on Friday nights when they were running these horror movies, and he'd be doing the announcements going back to the movie. And he started to do the voice and started doing more shtick, and eventually expanded it out that he was doing whole bits with, you know, his sound effects and everything, some of which I inherited. They're my sound effects. And you know, I was a fan. I'm a fan of his radio work and TV work, and he was running jokes that people had sent in to him, so I started sending him jokes and things, and he used a lot of them, and he found out that I was a broadcasting student and volunteered to come on my radio show on the college station. And
At Northwestern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, would you mind writing? He started to get specific things that he asked me to write, like song parodies and parodies of commercials that were on the air at the time and such. And, you know, just other, you know, flat out bits. I think Svengoolie Street was one of them, take off on Sesame Street. And eventually I ended up working with him there. When he was canceled there, he thought enough of me to bring me along to WMAQ Radio. And I was, you know, back then you weren't a sidekick, you were a producer.
Right.
And I was his producer, and also I was maybe 80% of the people he talked to on the phone, because I was different characters. We did commercials for Plywood, Minnesota.
Oh man.
You remember that?
Absolutely, yeah.
It was like a Home Depot today. And we had the idea, the president of it was this guy named John Leffler. And so we did a thing where I was this sort of dopey guy who didn't quite get things, but he was the president of the company. And as we do things like that, it was great. I had a great time. During that time, a friend of Jerry's that was on one of the stations, in charge of one of the stations, asked him if he'd want to do Svengoolie just as a lark for the summer. And Jerry was like, no, you know, I don't know if I want to do it. And he points at me and says, but you know, you could do it. You could be son of Svengoolie, and I could produce this. And, you know, first of all, I was very flattered that he thought I could handle that. And he said, okay, yeah, let's talk. Nothing ever came of it, unfortunately. It got kicked around, and then things changed. We were canceled from there. A lot of cancellation in broadcasting. Don't listen, cover your ears. And so what we did was we went our separate ways. I got to work with Dick Orkin, who did the Chicken Man stuff and so many great commercials. Jerry was working on various things. He worked with Easter seals. And then he ended up going to San Diego. He found a job there doing morning TV and radio. And before he left, he said, so what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. I've been freelancing. I said, maybe I'll try to, you know, sell somebody on doing a TV show. And he said, I tell you what, why don't you try doing the Son of Svengoolie thing? You have my blessing. And, you know, again, I was flattered that he felt I could handle it. So that's what happened. I shopped it around to various stations. One station, when I called and talked to the program director, told him what I wanted to do, he laughed and hung up on me. Very nice. And eventually I talked to Channel 32 WFLD, which was where Jerry's show had originally run. And they said, this is a great idea. We've been thinking of doing something like that, but let's make it a bake-off. And I had brought them complete scripts and ideas and everything. And I said, well, but I'm bringing you the whole thing. And they said, yeah, but let's let anybody try who wants to do it. So they had different auditions with people doing different things. Eventually, it ended up that I did get the job. So in 1979, 40 years ago, that was when I hit the air as the son of Svengoolie.
What was the first movie you showed?
In the year 2889. I think Paul Peterson might have been in it even, but oh boy, it was terrible. And then the second week we were going to run one of those Filipino horror movies with John Ashley.
Oh yeah.
And we even, at the end of the first show, since it was a little short, we did a thing where they were running just a clip I had never seen in the movie before. They popped me up in the corner and I made comments on it. Does that sound like anything else you people have ever seen? And when the general manager saw that, he said, "Oh my goodness," we used to pretend he was like, what was his name? Hugh Herbert? Old movie actor.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever I imitate him, "Oh my goodness." Like, "Oh no, you can't show that, you can't show that." Woo! And they picked a different movie to substitute. And it was like, okay, whatever. But that was the beginning of the whole thing.
Okay, how did the makeup change over the years? Because you look a lot different than you did when you first got on the air.
Well, I'm older.
Wow, that's true.
Actually, I did more shading then, and more, subtle type shading type thing. It wasn't the straight lines you see here. And I used a real crepe mustache. Crepe is fake hair, along with the beard. And the problem with that was, I think I've told you this story, Nick. You stick those on with this stuff called spirit gum. Spirit gum is absolutely awful stuff. It's kind of toxic. And I remember going to my dentist, and he said, "Boy, your gums are in really bad shape." And we couldn't figure out why. So I finally figured out when I wore that, because I had to keep sticking it on all the time under the hot lights, it'd keep coming off. I was using so much spirit gum, it was leaking into my mouth and affecting my gums. So that was when I decided I could paint on the mustache, and since I was a big fan of Groucho Marx, I figured if he could paint it on, it's good enough for me.
And it is good enough for you.
It is.
You know what? I totally forgot to do the intro that I was supposed to do.
Oh, well, do it now.
All right, I'll do it right now. Rich Coe's hard work and comic genius continue to pay off. At Chicago's U and Beyond, he was inducted into the prestigious Chicago Television Academy's 2004 Silver Circle for outstanding contributions to Chicago television. Is that right?
Yes, I believe it is.
Svengoolie has been voted favorite horror host 8 times in the prestigious National Rondo Awards, honoring the best horror and sci-fi genre.
I still haven't gotten the last statuette, but I hear it's coming.
Before we, you still haven't got it?
No, I just talked to the guy and he said, "Yeah, give me an address, I'll send it to you." It's like,
But tell me who the Rondo Awards are named after.
oh, they are named after, and actually in the shape of the head of, Rondo Hatton. Are you familiar with that actor? He was an actor who was in the Army and I believe was gassed. And it brought on and I always mispronounce this, acromegaly. It's a condition that made thickening of the bones and distorted his face. And there have been other people. Andre the Giant suffered from that. The one gentleman who was on the Jeffersons.
Benedict?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And he was known as the monster without makeup, which seems kind of cruel. But, that's what he did. He got into the acting business and was in various horror movies and even a Sherlock Holmes movie.
And they named the award after him, and you won 8 of them,
Yes.
even though you didn't get the latest one.
One's coming, I
Okay.
promise you.
March of 2011, Svengoolie debuted on the MeTV network nationwide. You are nationwide now.
That's right. Right now we're seeing it, I think, 96% of the country. And it's always amazing to me that I hear from all different parts of the country and over the border in Canada and things like that.
Uh-oh.
I'm not supposed to mention
Don't mention that. In 2014, the Museum of Broadcast Communications opened an entire Svengoolie exhibit featuring your old coffin and set pieces.
Yeah, and right now, don't go there to see that because they're changing around the configuration. They sold off one of the floors and they're moving things around. So my coffin and stuff are not on display right now, but will be by this fall. And there may even be a special event there in taking care of that and celebrating my 40 years as whatever I am.
Our good friend Dave Plyer.
Dave
He's a
Plyer.
WGN guy. He's on
Heard weekends overnight.
Wonderful guy.
WGN.
Wonderful guy. 2016, Sven teamed up with rock and roll legend Freddie Boom Boom Cannon for the hit single The Svengoolie Stomp.
Yes. How many of you have seen that?
If you haven't, we're going to see it. We're gonna see it tonight.
We'll play it later on.
Yes. You have been featured in Mad Magazine. That was so. You must have been thrilled. By the way, you might even be in a comic book coming soon. Are we going to hint at that?
We don't have to, I can tell you outright, finally, coming up this October, there's going to be a special feature known as Svengoolie Meets the DC Universe. And in all the DC comics, there are going to be, it's going to start 2-page parts of the story with me interacting with the various superheroes and villains. And
That is so cool.
It is. I'm going to be in there with, Superman and Wonder Woman. Hey, not a big deal. But yeah, that's going to be coming out this October, and we'll put more information about that on our website at Svengoolie.com.
Always check out Svengoolie.com. That Mad magazine was just so wonderful, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you guys saw it?
Being what I am, I was a big fan of Mad magazine, certainly, growing up. And I even loved going back and seeing the stuff from the 50s, which was so funny. And I felt that the writer, Ian Boothby, and Tom Richmond, the artist, really captured a lot of the feel of that old stuff. And the artwork is tremendous. Tom did such a nice job on it. I just got a gift of a special commission that he made for me of Alfred E. Newman dressed as Sven. Yeah, we'll be showing that on the show probably in about a month or two.
That's
But,
great.
yeah.
I remember when the issue came out, and I know you were so excited about it,
Yeah, it was amazing. Whoever thought that, and now they're going out of business.
Yeah.
Connect the dots.
I've had Dick DiBartolo on my
yeah,
show many
sure.
times, who have written some of the best parodies.
Definitely.
And he also was a guy who wrote the match game questions, the Dumb Dora.
Oh, right,
That stuff.
yes.
He created that. Dick's a good friend of the show, and I've had him on. He was very excited that you were a part
that's so
of that
nice.
issue. Let's see. Svengoolie is seen all across the country on the MeTV network. Every Saturday night, he continues to popularize True Rubber Chickens, bad and good movies, as well as the local suburb of Berwyn.
Oh, I had to hear that, didn't I?
That's right.
Let's all say it together. 1, 2, 3. Berwyn. Heard that before.
So you mentioned that you inherited some of the sound effects from Jerry G. Bishop, and I've told you this before.
Yeah.
My favorite sound effect every time you play it is ow, ow, ow. That's my favorite one.
And its junior partner. Ow!
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, people always ask where it came from. Some of it, I really don't know. It came from old comedy records and commercials. There was some stuff that Jerry had recorded with, his friends in broadcasting in Cleveland. There's some stuff that I can trace back to certain comedy records and TV shows. And then, of course, we've added to the entire roster of stuff. We have over, I want to say over 1,000 of those. It's probably even more than that, I guess. And, so we have a whole list that we try to keep track of them with. Often I will put the wrong number down because they're all numbered. And our audio guy, Chaz, as in Hit the Theme Chaz,
Right.
will look at it and say, I can't read your writing, first of all. And secondly, we have to go back in the list and trace down what number it actually was supposed to be.
Okay. Now he springs those on you, right? Like say during the mail segment, like he'll hit a sound effect and you don't know what's coming.
Well, actually, most of them are planned.
Oh, okay.
We try to script things because, we only have a certain amount of time on TV. But there are times when Chaz throws in stuff, and even when we're off camera, between bits, he will throw in stuff and literally crack me up. I'll make some great educated pronouncement, and they'll play the little theme from The More You Know. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about